will help you use the video capture software called Tracker. When you open Tracker, you're introduced with these three main windows. The first window is a window that you can drag your videos into, and the second two windows, this is a graphing video and this is a table video. So the first thing we need to do is we need to select a video. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use a preloaded video called Adrian throwing a tennis ball, and when I put it in, hopefully I find Adrian, who's the guy holding the tennis ball, and Dennis, who's the guy holding the ruler, in my field of view. If I press play, then what I'll notice is that there are 37 frames, and you can see the frames counting down here that show the fall of the tennis ball. However, the problem is that really the first part of the movie is junk. So what I need to do is I need to find when Dennis has actually started to let go of the tennis ball. So if I start moving this arrow back, I'll find that around about here, maybe once about there, Dennis is letting go of the tennis ball. So then I take this little black marker, I move the black marker up to the point where I want the video to start, and if I press play, I should have 18 frames of video to play with. So if I go back to the beginning, and you'll always see that this arrow goes back to where my black marker is. Next thing I need to do is I need to calibrate the movie. So to calibrate the movie, I'm going to go to the top to this tab, and what I'm going to select is I'm going to go for new, and I'm going to go for a calibration stick. Once I've got my calibration stick, I need to make the stick fit to the video, to the ruler rather, I should say. So Dennis is holding a 1 meter ruler, and what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and place this calibration stick over the 1 meter ruler. If I need some assistance, then what I can do is I can actually zoom in, and I can zoom into the video, and I can actually make that a little bit tighter if I want with the zoom function. Once I've got that, that is a 1 meter stick. So I now need to change this value to 1.0, 1 meter. Okay. Next thing I need to do is I need to give an axis start, or I need to give a point of start for the video so the video knows where we're going from. So what I'm going to be using is I'm going to be using this little tab up here, which is coordinates. And if I go and grab the center of the coordinates, I want the start of the video to be where Dennis is holding the tennis ball. So now I've got the coordinates set up and I've got the calibration stick. What I now need to collect is I need to start collecting data points. To do this, I'm going to go up to the button Create. When I press Create, I'm going to choose a point mass, and now if I will first of all see that because I've got mass A, you can now see that there's a graph that's appeared, and there's also a table of data that's collecting positions for time, X values, that's the X position values, and the Y position values. Both of X and Y are measured in meters. I'm going to change mass A, and I'm going to rename it, and I'm just going to call it Adrian and Dennis, so to give it some idea. And now what I need to do is I need to start collecting points. To do this, I'm going to hold the shift button. As soon as I hold the shift button, maybe not. As soon as I hold the shift button, I should see that my arrow has changed into like a little target cursor. If I then go over the tennis ball and press, I should find that a dot appears, and that dot is appearing now into the center of the graph, and that I've got a data value. You'll also notice that the video has gone and moved on a frame. So I'm then going to go to the next frame, holding down shift, press the dot again, and now I've got 2 points on the graph and 2 points on the table. If I keep on following the tennis ball, and every time the frame's moving on and I keep clicking, then I should be able to track the tennis ball as it falls through the air, frame by frame, and hopefully I should get 18 frames and 18 points that will be on the graph and will be on the table. Now, the problem at the moment is that here's my table of data down at the bottom, and here's my graph. My graph's not showing much. you got to remember that Adrian is dropping the tennis ball in the Y direction, and the graph at the moment is on the X direction. So if I change my X to a Y position, or Y component, you should see that I get this rather nice distance time graph, which shows a change in velocity and constant acceleration for the falling tennis ball. If I replay the video, or if I take this back to the point and then I press play again, you should notice that as it falls, it tracks the points on both the graph, the video, and the table of data. So now down here, we've got this rather nice table of data, and we want to start doing something with it. So the first thing is, if I go and choose this table, if I go and click on table, I can see that I've now got X and Y components selected. Now really I don't want X components, so I can get rid of those. But the thing that might be quite useful, and the thing that we will use definitely, is velocity. So I can actually start to add different values that are coming in onto this table. And if I was just to go on this graph to start off with, and I was to change this and go down to velocity magnitude, you can see that this is almost a pretty, not a bad straight line. And if I was to take the gradient of that line, it should be with a trend line around about 10 meters per second squared, we hope. So we've actually now gone and used Tracker. I can close this. We've now actually gone and used Tracker to give us all the details that we want. What we now want to do is we want to do something with this data. So we actually need to get this data, and we need to move it out of Tracker. So I'm going to go to File, and in File I'm going to export the file as a data file. If I export as a data file, I've then got Adrian and, well, it's called Adrian and Dennis 2. Okay, I'm going to do the selected cells, I'm going to do all the cells, I'm going to do full precision, why not, and I'm going to save it as. As I save it, I'm going to save this as Adrian and Dennis, and I'm going to just put it on my desktop, easiest place to find, and I'm going to put it in all four file format. I'm going to click save. So now I've actually gone and used Tracker. I've used Tracker to collect all the data points, and I can now get rid of it. So I'm not going to save anything because I don't need it, and then it's gone. Now somewhere in here, which is this part here, if I open this, you should find, if it goes quickly enough, that these are now my data points, and these are my data points for time, Y values and velocity values, but it's in a low text file format, which means I can't do anything with this right now. So what I need to do is I need to open Excel, and when I open Excel I just need a normal Excel workbook. If I go to File and then I'm going to open a file, right, I'm now going to select down here that I'm going to open all available files. So I'm going to go to the bottom, all available files, and on my desktop I'm going to look for Adrian and Dennis, which is here. If I click this, Excel knows that it's a low text format file, so it needs to convert it. So it's doing this thing called a text import wizard, which is this thing in the steps 1 to 3. You don't really need to follow this. All you need to do is go next, next, and then finish, and hopefully the Adrian and Dennis file will occur where I've now got my time values, my Y values, and my velocity values. And if I then draw a graph of time against velocity, and I go and choose a scatter graph, I should end up with a graph that looks like this. Now I'm not going to tidy this up, but if I then go and I add a trend line to this graph, and I go and put myself in a trend line option, and I give myself display the equation of the graph, and I click OK, you should find that this is now, if I move this over here, the gradient is 10.265, which will be 10.265 meters per second squared, which isn't bad for a piece of tutorial. Sorry, it's not a tutorial, which isn't bad for a tracking video piece of software where we're following points through. Obviously there are errors, but then that's something to talk about later. Cool, end of the tutorial. Thanks a lot.